Hey everyone, my name is David Daniel and welcome to X-tricated. This is our first episode, and after a lot of challenges and puzzles, we are recording our first episode. And with me here is Kabir Usman. KB.
Hello, David. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. So from henceforth, don't bother calling me David Daniel Bidlia, right? So our code names are going to be DDB, and it's going to be KB and DDB. Like, let's just leave it like that, right? So just to make it easy. Anyway, what we wanted to make this episode just a beginning and tell our audience why we decided to start this podcast, and we just want to give you a little of why it started, and then talk a little bit about some economics. You might talk. I believe that's the best place to start for us, because that's basically the foundation of this podcast. So Kabir, do you want to go? Just give them.
Yeah. Okay, so the reason why this podcast started was due to some of the conversations that me and DDB have been having for a while. We usually don't agree on some certain things, especially when it comes to economy. David is more of a capitalist junkie, and I lean more toward.
You say capitalist junkie. Why would you say capitalist junkie?
Because you're addicted to it. Okay. Yeah, so I lean a little bit more towards socialism, but I keep on, learning and stuff. And sometimes I see some good in capitalism. I see the good in capitalism, but I feel like I'm still going to favor socialism more than capitalism. So we had different backs and forths concerning this topic, and we gave different opinions, different views, and we're like, oh, okay, cool.
Till today, we've not settled the argument, though. Till today, we've never settled the argument. Maybe we're going to have a day that we're going to settle the argument. But
yeah, and you'll be our judges.
Yeah, exactly.
So we decided that okay, we can create this podcast to share our ideas with people, educate people about what we've learned and how they affect us, different things that occur in the society, how all these things impact us, impact our countries, so that's basically how this all began.
Yeah, and mind you, we're going to argue. Like, I found a phrase for argument now. It's called thoughtful disagreement. So we're going to argue on this podcast most times, maybe not all the times, but then like thoughtful argument, and then like intellectual one, and then we're going to go back and forth. But at the same time, we respect each other. At the same time, like, the main thing is just to at least educate ourselves. Like, that's number one: educate ourselves, have a good conversation, and then educate other people too. So that's basically the goal here, right? Mind you, we talked about socialism. Our discussion is always about socialism or capitalism, but that's even like extending it. We came to find out that there are other different types of economics, major economics. So that's why we said today we can just give you a brief definition. Let me say, just summary of the major economies around the world. So economy is basically how an economic system is basically how a country use, like, how am I going to say it? How a country goes around doing their businesses when it comes to economic businesses. What's their policy? How do they make what are their actions and what are their patterns, right? So towards making money, and how they produce, and what's the relationship between people, the government, and the private sector. That's basically what economy is like. How is it structured? And I think there are four, right? Yeah. There are four major ones. There are others too, but there are four major ones. Apart from socialism and capitalism, which ones are there? Can be KB.
Aside from socialism and capitalism, the other two major economic systems are communism, and you also have countries that practice mixed economies.
I actually wanted to even ask this question, but do you know that how socialism and communism are they the same thing? Because socialism is basically people, communism is also people, right? But what's the difference? What are they and then what are their differences? The two of them each.
Let me start from socialism. Um, when we talk about socialism or in a socialist economy, you have the states, that's the governments now, basically owning and controlling all the major factors of production. You know, your factors of production, including capital, land, labor, and whatnot. You have everything under the control of the government. And in this system, you have a lot of cooperatives, basically, among the workers. You understand? So what basically happens is everybody contributes to the system, and everything is managed by the government. Unlike in the case of capitalism, where you have more competition, you know, everybody's entering the system. All the factors are controlled by individuals. Well, in the case of communism, I think the major difference between communism and socialism is that communism kind of wants to operate a classless society. Yes, everything, just like in socialism, everything is controlled and owned by the government. You also have a lot of what's it called? You also have a lack of competition, basically. You have a lack of competition. You have everything being owned, everything being controlled by the government, everything being held together by the government. You don't have people coming in. You don't have the freedom to say, oh, I want to do this. You understand? Everything has to be by the permission of the government, and I think that's the major difference between communism and socialism.
So I think the difference now between socialism and communism is the fact that socialism involves people inside their decision making when it comes to the government. It involves people, right? But the communism aspect, they don't. Is like centrally controlled by the government, right?
Yeah, all decisions are final, and those final decisions are taken by the government.
Oh.
You don't have the inputs like you have in socialism.
Okay, and like, but while like I don't like any one of them, right? But I feel socialism is better compared to communism because in the world that we are in today, how can I just be in this world and just be answerable to the government, right? Even China, for example, I'm not doing that anymore, right? I see how they're doing. They're doing great. Yes, exactly. You get that. So even China are not doing that anymore. So they are using, I think, a better economic system. We're going to talk about that later. What's it called? I saw some advantages and disadvantages, right? For example, we talk about government in central powers own the means of production, that is in socialism, right? And guess what? I found out. So if you're in support of socialism, right, you're in support of people paying you based on the hours that you worked and not based on your capacity or not based on what your skill is, right? So no matter the level in a socialist economy, right, no matter the level of your skill, right, they will never ever pay you based on that skill. It's not based on what you bring, it's based on the hours you put. So if you want to earn more money, you have to work 24 hours.
Yes. But an advantage is that there's an absence of exploitation. You're not what's it called? You're not going to take for example people that practice capitalism. Many of their companies outsource jobs or outsource means of production to places where they can get cheaper labor. So where they can get cheaper labor, you are basically exploiting those workers. So in socialism, you have an absence of that exploitation. You have people that are doing these jobs for a standard pay, basically, not not basically looking for cheaper labor and all those type of things. A socialist system avoids those kind of loopholes.
Let's talk about what of communism. Communism, they talk about what's it called? How do they share the proceeds of the economy to the people? Do the people have a say in that? Like, I know the people don't have a say in decisions, but based on what is available, do they have a say on what they make?
Yeah, like I said, all decisions are made by the government. So the people really basically don't have any inputs concerning that. So whatever the government decides is what is going to be. Understand? And even like what I said about this exploitation too now, about society in absence of exploitation. In the case of communism, you can actually have those exploitations. You have like take the former Soviet Union when they used to practice communism.
Okay.
You know, they made use
what
of.
What economic system are they using now? That's Russia.
To be honest, it kind of feels like a mixed system.
Okay.
I am not really sure what direction they are going with.
Okay.
But it seems like a mixed system.
Okay.
So in the old Soviet Union, they basically made use of a lot of workers from lower classes, maybe undesirables, prisoners, all those type of things. They end up working them so hard and for little pay to achieve the perceived development that they were chasing.
Yes.
So that's like a major difference between socialism and communism. So where you say that socialism has the absence of exploitation, communism goes the other direction of like, no, we want exploitation. We want to use these people that we don't like, basically, or people that we can just basically give very low amount of money, and they're going to do our work anyway, because because they are going to.
But at the end of the day, right, as you say that it removes that exploitation, I think that's the only thing that is an advantage that I've seen so far, right? Because it also focuses on the society more than individual interest. But if you look at it, it's going to inhibit. You get the freedom to pursue creative jobs and careers because there's no motivation, right? That's number one. It's going to eliminate market competition, right? Now, when you eliminate market competition, there's lack of innovation and advancement because you're going to say, okay, fine, there's no need to actually improve on anything. We're doing right, everybody's earning money, and then on the same level, everybody's content. There's no need for innovation and advancement, right? And then there's scarcity again, right? The scarcity, it creates scarcity because a lot of things like one has to give the other. You get, but because of inability to plan for individual needs, you get all you're thinking of is the company, the whole economy is for you, and then you're not even thinking of. It's more like you're not even thinking of yourself. You're basically thinking of, okay, fine, how am I going to stop? Which is good, which is okay, but to be honest, being selfish has its own advantage too. That's my own opinion, though. So, like,
exactly.
I see this. You see those two, right? Command. They call socialism command economic system with some resources, and they call communism as a centrally planned economic system, which is what you just explained, right? And I could understand. And to be honest, I've seen Russia use communism, and I've seen I've gone into history and learned about Russia and how they use communism and socialism at the same time. I think they use socialism before, now they're using a mixed economic system. I think every country now, China is using an economic system that is mixed, but it's slightly moves towards um, what do they call it, capitalism. Because if you look at Hong Kong, for example, Hong Kong is a capitalist economic system. It's one of the states, right, for in China, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing in other states. Like some states are capitalist states in China, right? The rest of the state, let's say,
Yeah.
go to the grassroots. That's when you see socialism and all that. Socialism basically, not even communism now. You get, but they mix it up. They mix all three at the same time. So theirs is a special thing. So what?
Yeah, so we have different regions practicing different economic systems.
Exactly, in China, that's exactly what they do. So, but I
Mm.
think, but they call it communism. They always say they are using the communism system, but let's be honest, they are using capitalism. They are using the mixed economic system. Now,
They do have elements of communism, but then they know that for them to be successful, they have to dive into other methods.
Yes, that's very true.
I think that's what has led to the growth of their economy. It has led to so much success for them, and they are now competing with the United States, basically.
All right, yeah, that's true. So now, contrary to what people may believe, I am not someone that I'm not a capitalist junkie. I was a capitalist junkie. I've been a capitalist junkie, but not anymore. I still believe in the principles of the capitalist economy, right? I still believe in that, right? But you've got to create a balance. You've got to create a balance, right?
So it seems as you're wearing me down, I'm also wearing you down. So I think that's good.
To some extent, because I've noticed. So what's, pardon me. Let me just say this. Like, and a capitalist economy is an economy that is basically for the market, right? It's a free market system. That's what a capitalist economy is, right?
Yes.
It's all about the private sector, your self-interest, and the government does not put their hands when it comes to that market economic system. The only money, for example, the central bank, they don't control the central bank in a capitalist economy, right? They don't control the private sector. They don't even give agencies. They don't. Agencies create themselves and then they regulate, right? So that's what capitalist economy is. And there's a slight difference, right? There's a slight difference between, let me say, a major difference, right? Because in a capitalist economy, you have private enterprises. Enterprise owns the means of production, like they own the means of production. You remember when you said in socialism that the government owns the means of production, but this time around is the opposite, right? And government does not involve itself in economic decisions. That is in the capitalist economy, and it's run on self-interest and competition, and that's where one of the advantages, right? Because it benefits society through the invisible hand. So I want to give two examples, right? Samsung and Apple, for example, they're from different countries, right? But they compete. You get, so they compete with each other. Recently, when Apple just launched their iPhone 14, right, Pro Max, you could see different banters, different coming from Samsung, and that was
you love to see it.
Yeah, you love to see that thing, right?
You love to see Apple being dragged.
Yes, it's healthy competition. They each have communities where they love this product. These communities love this product, love Apple, love Samsung, right? And they are treated to the best services, not because they are even looking for it, but because the other company that is competing is making sure that they are keeping that company on their toes, right? So they have to keep innovating now, right? The more they keep innovating, the more they keep giving value, good value, that even the customer does not think he wanted it, but when the customer sees it, oh my god, this is what I wanted. Right? So that is
that's true.
Yeah, that is what it treats you to, right? And then based on the market mechanism of supply and demand and prices, which allocate resources. So that principle of supply and demand, right? It works perfectly, and then in the capitalist economy, right? So, but it's also a disadvantage, because that's what's a whole lot of things when we come out of transactions are taking places, and then we come out create credits, loans, and the rich get to have more assets than the have-not. We have haves and have-not. The haves keep acquiring more money and more assets, and they can borrow more than the have-not, right? So
Yeah.
that's where the disadvantage is. But at the end of the day,
I think I know another disadvantage.
Okay.
So, but I want to ask you a question though.
Okay, ask.
Instead of just stating it, um, the country wants to practice capitalism,
Okay.
and with the nature of capitalism, you said that it's a free market. Individuals control the means of production, the factor of production. And you also said that there are haves and there are have-nots, isn't it? So, if you want to operate a capitalist system effectively,
Yeah.
you understand,
Yeah.
you always have to be on your toes as a government. You always have to bring one form of regulation or the other. It's not necessarily a free market like it is stated, because we can give example now. Okay, you give example of Apple and Samsung. These are two big names in the market. So let's say they are both from the same country. They are both operating under the same system. It's more like two big horses, you understand, in the race. And then I now come up, I say I want to start my own phone company, you understand, and I am basically bringing innovations that will disrupt the industry, you understand, but I do not have the kind of money that Apple and Samsung have. Don't you think Apple and Samsung, when they see that, they want to make sure that they keep hold of the markets by acquiring my own business, always trying to take over the businesses of those that are trying to come up, you understand, so that those people do not compete with them in the future, so they gain their competitive advantage in the process, and take out those people from the market. So don't you think that a government overseeing all those things will be like, oh, okay, I don't want this to happen, I want there to be competition, so I need to regulate this, I need to prevent this from happening? Don't you think so? Don't you think it will be very stressful on the government?
Now, it's going to be stressful on the government, and that is why I said capitalist economy, right? The capitalist economy, the government does not involve itself in those decisions, right? Even regulatory bodies are independent of the government in a capitalist economy, in a pure capitalist economy, right? And now, let me break the bubble. Let me break the myth. There's no country on this planet Earth that is actually practicing a pure form of capitalist economic system. I have not seen that. Maybe one of these maybe one of the no, United States of America is not, right? We've not talked about the mixed economic system, right? Now, the mixed economic system, that is what the United States of America uses, because they have regulatory bodies, like 90%, over 90% of their regulatory bodies, they are not independent. They are government based. We get, so that is what they use to control the economic system. But they don't directly control. They indirectly control the economic system in US, right? It goes for the same thing with Japan, for example. You get, it goes the same for Russia, for for China too at the same time, right? So now I think some European countries like Switzerland and the rest, they are using a capitalist economy. Or is it capitalist or socialist economy? One way or the other, they mix it both. They mix capitalist and socialist, because it's for the people. At the same time, they have that whole of not meddling into the sector, right? And then when it comes to, you see, Egypt in Africa, Tunisia and Morocco, they are trying to implement a capitalist economy, but it's not possible, right? Because they have the kings, they have this whole kingdom of kings. So it's not possible to do that. Now, that will lead me to a mixed economic system. Now, a mixed economic system is one of the most common forms of economic system in the world today, right? You see it in US, you see it in Japan, and throughout most of Europe, right? It's mixed. So it's just a mixture of capitalist and a command economic system. So capitalist and a social, what's it called? Socialist economic system, socialism. So that's what Europeans, as I said, that's what most Europeans used to use. So let me just give you a good balance right here, right? When you have a capitalist economic system that the private sector is on its own, right? It goes haywire, right? Because it's really it's like how you said, KB, right? That you cannot control how people get to eat up the small competition that is coming up, right? You've got to create a balance where the small companies also can thrive and build themselves, right? So had it been there was no regulatory body that the government allowed to at least regulate certain things in the United States of America, we won't have Netflix today. We won't have Tesla today. There are many companies that you will not have today. You won't have Airbnb, right? Because when they see companies,
Yes.
yeah, you get it, right? We won't see Uber, we won't see Lyft, we won't see many companies today, right? Because if you go
Yeah.
to US, for example, now there are different. See, there's competition. Small companies can actually compete with the big companies based on the market size that is available.
That's because they've allowed the regulation.
Yes, and they
So
found the balance. They found the right balance. Now, the bad problem now with the mixed economy is finding the right balance, right? Now, you have
yes.
the private sector, you have the public sector, and you have the government in the middle, right? And now, the government in the middle is in disguise. They are the what's it called? Sorry, the government is not in the middle, basically, but they've created a middleman, which are the agencies, the regulatory bodies, right? Now, the government need to find the right balance on how the what's it called? How the private sector will not have more influence than the government on the regulatory bodies. At the same time, the government need to make sure that they do not have more influence on the regulatory bodies than the private sector. It has to be a 50-50 thing, right? A right balance.
Yeah.
It has to be a right.
So like I said, it's very stressful.
Yes, exactly. So
And it also takes the freedom out of free markets.
yes, it takes away the freedom out of the free market, right? Because as
So I think capitalism, like you said, cannot be practiced in its true sense.
it cannot be practiced in
If
its true
if
sense.
if not, you have. I think it will even lead to collapse.
It's going to
If
lead to a
there is
collapse.
no-
Yes, it's going to lead to a collapse.
Yeah.
It's going to lead to a lot of there's these movies there are movies that we used to watch, right? Let's say sci-fi movies, and then you see that there's only one aspect of the whole let's say country or the state that is really looking good, but then you see the rest of the planet is just so bad and so something else. That is the definition of a capitalist economy because
Yeah, you have a lot of inequality.
exactly, the poor are just the poor, and then they are left aside, and then the rich are just the rich, and then they are just enjoying and getting more, like they're getting more money and all that. You get that, and then there's no form of redistribution of wealth. But you see, in a mixed economic system, right, it's mixed in a way that the regulatory bodies make sure that whatever happens, however the market tanks or whatever they used to call this the market crash, recession, the market can come down to zero, but guess what, it will always come back up, right? Because the market corrects itself. So that's an advantage of the mixed economy to me.
And that's really because even though you have private ownership of resources, you have it supported by a substantial public sector ownership too.
Yes,
You have public-private partnership.
Yes.
So, that is how you can actually achieve your common goal of development.
Yes, exactly. So the government have to work hand in hand with the private sector in a way that both actually win. Yes, they're not going to win the way they want, but at least they win, and then the smaller, let's say the poor, the middle class, are not going to be cheated in a wide sense. They are still cheated. Let's be honest. Like, the government will always tell you that the backbone of any economy, right, is the middle class, right? But how can you, like, if you're a very good government, what would you do? You always make sure that the majority of people in your country are middle class. So you try to elevate the poor to the middle class and make sure that they remain in the middle class.
Make sure the middle class don't enter the upper class.
Yes, exactly. So you keep increasing people to the middle class, but don't allow people from the middle class to reach that level, like to go beyond that middle class, right? Because that is where the buying power is. The more the buying power, right? The more the buying power is, the more the more you make money, right? But at the same time, that's also a disadvantage. So we're going to talk about like the economic machine on its own, like in a better, detailed level in a later episode.
That sounds like a very interesting topic.
Yes, because we have to
talk about how money moves.
Yes, we want to talk about debt, how debt, money, people, loans, people that have money, what is long term. See, there's a lot of things that we have to talk about.
Yeah.
The economic machine itself. And that we cannot do it in one episode. We'll do it. It's going to be a series. It's going to be a series, and we're going to explain that in more detail. So now, this brings me down to Nigeria. KB.
Yeah.
What economic system do you think Nigeria is using?
I think Nigeria's economic system is a little bit of here and there, to be honest. But if you
here and there,
in the best possible sense, you say that Nigeria's economy is a mixed economy. You have this private public partnership, like I mentioned. The prices of the goods in the market are not determined solely by the companies. You understand? You also have the government has a say in how some certain things are planned. There's regulation, like we talked about.
yes.
There's regulation. The government limits hiking of prices of certain goods, beyond the capacity of the citizenry. You understand? And like you said, the middle class, you understand, the middle class basically thrives because we are the buying power in Nigeria. You have a lot of emphasis on the middle class. But however, the thing is that when every government comes, you see one president leaning towards a different economic system. Yes, in the end it's a mixed system, but you still favoring one system for the other. You understand? You can take Obasanjo, for example. Obasanjo wanted Nigeria to be a pure capitalist state.
Yes.
You understand?
That's true.
And you will think that the person he chose to be his successor in the person of Yaradua would want to continue along that line.
Yes.
But he decided to go for a more let's say a protectionist approach. So you had them leaning more towards socialist policies.
Yes.
At the time, and then the next person came in who happened to be his vice president. He now came in and he started. Okay, his was very, very like perfect example of a mixed economy,
Yes.
but you still see that tendency to lean towards capitalism.
Yes.
Then our current president also has that. He has the mindset of the mixed economy in him, but you see him leaning towards protectionism again. They are basically They are trying to protect your masses from the
Private sector.
company, basically, from the private sector. Yes, that's basically what he's trying to do. But then you still see that he realizes that there is need for this mixed economy to be there for us to thrive. You understand? So he still finds a way to make private sector and public sector to partner in ways. You understand? He doesn't go for complete privatization, just like what was exhibited with NNPC.
Yes.
Rather, it was a commercialization. You understand? More capitalist. Yeah.
It's more like a shared ownership.
Yes. So a more capitalist. Yes. So a more capitalist-minded president will have gone for complete privatization of the company. You understand?
Yes.
Say a person like Atiku came into power. He had the idea of complete privatization of NNPC. So you see all these type of things. You have different presidents coming in with different ideologies. Sometimes that can be a bad thing, in the sense that when one person starts on one path and then another person comes in and says, no, I want to go a different path, it kind of disrupts the development. You understand? And it seems like it's okay. Every single year you have a different person coming in with a different policy. It's like you don't have two people having the same mindsets coming back to back. You understand? I think that's one of the biggest problems that our economy has faced when it comes to development. I think in a standard mixed economic system, we would have thrived perfectly. You understand? If maybe somebody comes in and says, okay, we continue in this direction, we'll still thrive. I think there's no correct answer when it comes to Nigeria's economy, to be honest. There's no correct answer.
At the moment, you're right. Like what you just said is right.
Mhm.
Like there's no correct answer when it comes to Nigeria's economy, because I think we as a country, right, we're learning. It's more like self-discovery, right? You're learning who
Yeah.
you are, right? What works best for you, right? And me,
Yeah.
based on the indications, I feel what this current administration are going through, are wanting to implement. They want to implement a mixed economic system, but
Yes.
they have problems. They have different factors that are going against them, right? One is the people. The people are really, really stubborn. And when I say the people, that includes me, that includes you, because let's be honest, right? There are certain policies that they try to put, and then we don't agree with, and then we go against them. We find ways. That's one thing about Nigerians. We always find ways to go against policies without being penalized for them. You get? So that is a problem that we're having. And then the central bank is always trying to. Hello, can you hear me?
I didn't get what you were saying for a few seconds.
Okay, all right. So the central government is trying to help in one way or the other, right? But they are making matters worse, because the more they put certain sanctions, they go against the private sector, and the private sector always retaliates, right? And then now,
Yes.
let's be honest, individuals are not considered as private sectors. Like me and
Yes.
you, we are not considered as private entities of our own right now, right? And we go against what the central bank is trying to do. So there needs to be a harmony, right? As I said, balance. You need to find the right balance for all to understand. And at the moment, the Nigerian economic system is not there yet. So till then, So we've come to basically the end of this episode. I think this episode has gone for a long time. But anyway, it's good. I enjoyed the discussion. I hope you enjoyed hearing what you heard in this episode. We're going to talk more in details about these economic systems one by one. We're also going to talk about factors like different pieces, right, in the economy. As I said, detailed discussion of the economic machine in the world and also in Nigeria, right? So over the months, you get to see a lot more of content like this. So yeah, KB, anything you have to say for our distinguished listeners?
All I have to say is that you should also give us your opinions. You can also interact with us on social media. Give us your opinions on what you think about our topics, so we can also discuss. The discussion will not only be here. We also want to discuss with you. So we want to know what you think. So you make sure to follow us on our social media pages, and make sure you like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode.
All right then, man, take care of yourself, and everybody take care. Bye.
Yeah.